He leaves quite a lasting impression on them wherever he goes.
Such a warm, hospitable man. From the first time you meet him, he's like your elder brother.
ABPL has always been like a family. I mean, there was this family atmosphere, especially for somebody who was very new in the country.
And I asked myself, what shall I do? Because wealth is not the only thing to be proud of. So I came here, I was confused because I was running the shops, I bought some more shops. So what happened? One day in November 75 or so, Kusuman went to Pushpa. So look, I'm in a difficulty, I want bike to give me 10,000 pounds. When I went home in the evening, Pushpa said, look, I have done a deal. We'll buy Gujarat Samachar. It was a very foolish venture. You should not do what you don't know properly. We decided to launch a new life. So both papers, in the first 3 years, they lost a lot of money. But I had money and more than money, if I may say so, complete commitment.
We all came as immigrants in this country, and this paper was the bridge between the British Indian community and England. I think it helped us to integrate as well, which is very important.
I first met CB more than 30 years ago when I was a student at university.
Well, CB was one of the first person to ring me and write to me when I became a peer.
The first time I had contact with CB was when I stood as the parliamentary candidate in Richmond in South London. I was told if I wanted to win, I needed to talk to the editor of the biggest Asian newspaper in the country, that was CB Patel. So I rang him up cold and I told him who I was, and he already knew about the selection and he promised total support.
He leaves quite a lasting impression on them wherever he goes.
CB Patel is a very warm human being and an inspiration to everyone about how we can live our lives meaningfully and contribute to society while doing so.
One thing my father told me, that serve people. Whenever there's a problem, you should be the first person to rush.
I have always found you energetic, smiling, and talking of some purpose and service to the community.
One of the most passionate courses that he had was Bhaktivedanta Manor, when they were planning to close it down. It was CB who persuaded me to go on hunger strike in support of the temple, which got guffaws of laughter in the national press.
He's revived some temples which were shutting down. He drove a petition to help revive it.
What he said in 2015 was culmination of many years actual campaign for direct flight.
हमारे मित्र सीबी पटेल आते थे, वो लीड करते थे। तो मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, 15 दिसंबर से लंदन अहमदाबाद डायरेक्ट फ्लाइट शुरू हो जाएगी।
It was not planned exactly, but I knew the power of printed words from my childhood. Then I came to England when I was just about 30, not 30 complete. And I studied law for some years. But then I went to business, I made a pound or two. And I was happy but not so satisfied. By that time in 73, after 7 years, when I thought I had quite a few tangible assets, I met my father who was a sannyasi. He took sannyas when he was 60. And we tried to meet him from East Africa here, but he would never welcome any contact with the family. But in 73, when my son was just about 5 years, no, 3.5, we took him to India for a ceremony, Badha, and also to go to my temple in my village. And my mother suggested that, look, if possible, try to meet your father. But we did not know where, because he was roaming all over the country. But somebody told that he is for Chaturmas, the 4 months, holy months in the monsoon, the religious people are supposed to stay in a place. So we knew that he was in a place. And my mom told me that don't inform him, otherwise he will go away. So secretly we went there. We were quite a few relations, myself, my uncle, my Pushpa, my Sarojman, my mother, my brothers. We were about 10-15 people. And we did not inform him. We simply went where he was having a small ashram is a big word, but he had his own world. And as soon as he came to know that we are here, he was shouting. This, because he was actually a man of his own words. Go away. And he was shouting so much that Merul, who was in my hand, started crying. At that moment he realized that it must be his grandson. Because we had no letters, no correspondence. So Merul started crying, so he tried to catch him, hold him. Merul started crying more because he had a beard and all these things, Hessian clothes. But he married immediately. And after offering us tea or coffee or some snacks, he said, let's walk on the river. River Narmada is a very holy river. And we lived there many years ago in our good days. So we went to a place on the bank itself, myself and him. And he asked me in Hindi, "Kya karte ho?" So I talked about my shops and my properties, my this thing. And he would lost his temper again. I don't want to see you. You are boasting about wealth because when you are a thief. So I said, look, this is very funny. An old man, not educated, but he knew. He said, are you paying all the proper income tax? I said, no, I have some. He said, but that means you are a thief. You are not loyal to the country you live in. So I asked him, what should I do to make you happy? He says, because do you want a temple? Because I had enough money to. He said, no, I don't believe in temples. On the contrary, structured religion is not what is by Shraddha and Andhashraddha. He explained to me, we only talked for 20 minutes, that do something which will make Sanatana Dharma more relevant to the present life and not rituals only. So I said, how? But he was very well read. He used to read regularly Gujarati magazine called Akandalan. And there was a small A5 size booklet called Parichaya Pustika. One Mr. Vadilal Dugli, who was a brilliant academic in Mumbai, was offered scholarship by Ford Foundation in America. And in those days, people go to America for 2 and 2, they won't go back. But this man went back to India. And he started Parichaya Pustika. No advert. A5 size, 32 page. They will discuss one subject of critical problem for India, from ecology to this and that. So my father said, do you know this? So I used to read this magazine occasionally. He says, and he said in a very funny Gujarati way, if you got the guts, do something worthwhile, and this is best. And he explained in his own way that if you spread knowledge, not information, knowledge with some mission, then tera moksha ho gaya. Moksha means salvation. And I said, look, I don't know, because I used to have serious type of shop, I had about 15 shops. He says, look, there is a Ramayana चौपाई करत करत अभ्यास से जडमती होत सुजान रसरी आवत जात से शलभ पर पड़त निशान. What Tulsidas wrote, that by continuous effort, even if the ignorant person will become a clever man, Pandit. Because if you look at the rivers, the river flows for centuries and even the big hills are carved. So I said, I will try. He said, don't say I will try. And he talked about can-do attitude, but putting your house into order. Because he explained to me, well, today you've got so many shops, you might have 100 shops, 500 shops. So what? Will it give you satisfaction? Something to be proud of? Because wealth is not the only thing to be proud of. So I came here, I was confused because I was running the shops, I bought some more shops. But then I also know about Theosophical Lodge. In Camberley, near Sandhurst, there is a Theosophical Lodge started by Annie Besant in the early 20th century. And I went for a retreat for 3 days in June 74 to know, because I read by them Churchill's, select very carefully. And I came back that this Swamiji, but my father, has a good message. So I told my family, and everybody laughed at me, even my managers, and because I had quite few assets. But there was a jump, and Gujarat Samachar was started by somebody else. And Kusum Shah was a very good woman, but she could not run the paper. She was a widow and people exploited her. She knew my wife Pushpa, she would say Babi Babi. And Pushpa and Kusum had a different relationship. We were settled, Kusum had gone from one to difficulty. So what happened, one day in November 75 or so, Kusum went to Pushpa. We used to live in Edgware. We had a big house at the time. And she said, look, no, she telephoned 5 times on that day to meet me, but I was visiting my shops. So Pushpa, she went to Pushpa and she said, look, I'm in a difficulty. I want buy, means CB, to give me 10,000 pounds tomorrow. Now 10,000 pounds in 75 was a lot of money. So I had assets, I did not. But when I went home in the evening, Pushpa said, look, I have done a deal. We'll buy Gujarat Samachar and we'll have to give them 10,000 pounds. Now Pushpa is not a businesswoman. She did not look at the accounts and this and that, circulation, nothing. And first time and the last time Pushpa made business decision. So next morning I sent the money because on Tuesday there was a court hearing for Kusum. So in November we decided to buy. I had to get up the press and the machinery and things because there was, but they had actually, for almost 1 year, they were not publishing properly. So we had to assemble the whole group, and on the 9th April 76, the first edition came out in my management, our management. And it was coincident, that was my birthday also, 9th April. So on the front page, we didn't know, but we put that Sri Ramachandra Krupalu Bhajaman, that prayer. And we started. It was a very foolish venture. You should not do what you don't know properly. So I made mistakes, I made losses. But one tendency, what Sanatan Dharma, if you start something, don't give up. But values are important. So we made mistakes. Gujarat Samachar was in nowhere, but within 3-4 years, we started gaining enough things. But by that time, one Chotu Karadi, who was sub-editor of Guardian, came to see me that we want English paper. Because Gujarat Samachar was running for few months, and he met me in June 76 or so. And we decided to launch New Life. Chotu was our first editor, and there were some nice English people. So both papers, in the first 3 years, they lost a lot of money. But I had money and more than money, if I may say so, complete commitment, don't give up. So we started, we have so many initiatives, so many campaigns. One thing my father told me, that serve people. Whenever there's a problem, you should be the first person to rush. So you can see perhaps many campaigns. Not only Hare Krishna campaign or direct flight. By serving, because his message was in Gujarati, Seva karo, shanti malse. Not meva. Because peace of mind is most important. didn't plan to be here on today. It is just, I owe so much to so many. There are two individuals I would mention who gave me a lot of guidance. One was Swami Krishnanand Saraswati. He was the first Swami in saffron clothes to go to Africa after Vivekananda. And he started an ashram in Ghana called, it is still going on. And he was from Rajasthan, a former magistrate, but amazing man. And he met me, he gave me a lot of advice, do's and don't do's. I won't say I followed every one of them, but there are few salient advice I won't give up. My father had told me, don't go for electoral politics. That's why in '83 when Neil Kinnock offered me Brent's house, I said no. I've taken a pledge with my father. Or don't accept any state honors. I was offered some honors. So far I have not accepted any honors from here or from government. But Krishnanand Saraswati told me about seva and knowledge. Jnana and seva. But there was another amazing man called Professor Ishwarbhai Patel, a Gandhian. In 1926-27, first class, first Bombay University, MA. But Gandhian, he did everything for teaching as a teacher. And he became Vice Chancellor of 3 universities. He, for 1 month, he was in India, in London. I used to go and pick him up in the morning and he would come and take me. So there are so many people, my columnists, my team, over the last 50 years, so many people have joined, so many have left, but each one of them have done some concrete contribution. So actually I'm just fortunate. Others work hard and I think I'm successful. So many people gave me right advice, right support in different ways. In the pursuit of seva mantra, wherever there's a problem for Hindus, Sikhs, Jains and Buddhists, I will jump. I'm not against other religion, but my duty is to my own values, my own tradition. So there were some ups and downs. Earliest was a small incident. Society, individuals have got distractions, enemies, and there are more internal enemies than external enemies. So first campaign we had to start, which was very, very dangerous. There were people in this country, Indian leaders so-called, who would exploit people who are vulnerable for immigration fraud and who would exploit women for cultural activities. So we did a major investigation, Guardian picked up the story. But that was one thing I learned, that you take risk, and as long as you got that moral strength, it was not done for self-interest. So there were many. We have challenged other media people, not only the Gujarati media, but say in the last 2002, there were so many attacks from Economist and Telegraph, Times against Modi called genocide. So I would write to them, and eventually Economist sent the deputy editor to my office. So today they talk Modi as a Hindu nationalist, but not genocide or murderer. So there were many, to be honest, countless. That's where I spent my time, my energy, but I get most satisfaction. I was surprised. I knew Narendra Bhai, we met earlier that day also. No, what he said in 2015 was culmination of many years actual campaign for direct flight. And Narendra Bhai knew that previously, before 2004 election, when Praful Patel was Minister for Civil Aviation, whom I knew very well, and Hardeep Puri will tell you the whole story because he mentioned recently in India House. we prepared proper dossier about the passenger flow and viability, and I talked to 28 travel agents. The direct flight to Gujarat, Ahmedabad, will not only help financially Air India, but it will sustain the cultural link, political link, India's influence abroad. So it was started by Vajpayee government. But when UPA 1 came, they suddenly stopped it. So Prabhu Patel met me and I knew, and I said, look, what silly thing you are doing? He said, it's not viable. I said, no, that is not correct. So I told about one thing, I would never launch a campaign without proper preparation. That is my training as a lawyer. So I gave him dossier, but it was corruption and many more things. So I used to talk to Narendra Bhai, that he was Chief Minister. Narendra Bhai is if I may say so, I know him for a very long time. I read his poems and stories from 75 onward. And I realized that the guy has got idealism and honesty of purpose. And he is non-corrupt. People don't know that his hairdresser was a Muslim from Badnagar for many years. His father gave shelter to a Muslim helpless child and they grew up together. Narendra Modi is not anti-Muslim, but definitely he knows the value of our heritage. He will look after it. So I went to Narendra Bhai again after the 2004 and I said, look, this is horrible. So we started petitions. I met Hamad Patel, Delhi. Because direct flight to me was not only Air India or passengers, it is for Indian influence abroad. And Narendra Bhai would say, CB, what can I do? It is central government subject. And I met Prabhu Patel again, and he was totally adamant. And you can't just discover, I mean, these people were big shots. So when Modi government, when in 2013 and 14 Modi became Prime Minister, I did tell him that now you can't say it is a central government subject. If you are not sure about the viability, we can discuss. He says no. So we kept on pestering. He was a bit, I didn't go and touch his, but I did because he used to consider me as an elder brother, if I may say so. Respect me. And he was Chief Minister, but he would consider me as a family head, if I may say so. Because I'm about 13 years, 14 years older than him. I said, why don't you do it? And I would never, one thing I learned, never bullshit people. Never challenge them, never threaten. Appeal to the sense of pride and pride. So Narendra Bhai, Amma so kharab che. What is wrong with it? He says, don't worry. Something is going to happen. And to me that was enough. To be honest, I had tears. Because that is Modi's style. And he did it in a very dramatic way. But I think credit goes to people who supported me. There were two major campaigns. Altogether, the petition was signed twice, 25,000 or more, or to travel agents, or people who are really big shots in travel industry. They gave me all the facts. So I was very pleased, but surprised, but very humbled. Then I remember David Cameron tell me later on. Now there are two incidents. So Narendra Bhai met me later on at a dinner. So I said in Gujarati. He said, "બધું બરાબર છે ને? Everything all right?" Means about the announcement. I said, "Look, nice." But I said, Gujaratiમાં કહું, તમે બહુ ઉભરાઈ ગયા હતા. Means you were very generous. So he just nudged me. He says, "You're not happy?" I said, "I'm very happy, but some people are not going to be very happy because I've got some friends, some competition." He says, "I don't care. I did what was supposed to be done." And I think, if I'm told by Air India people, that it is a very viable route. It is, people use it, I have used it many times. I worried about old people who had to transfer in Mumbai or Delhi, and it was horrendous. So for them and young children, businessmen, And in the earlier, the timing was so good. You can go here and still have time to work, and within a day or two you can come back. So that means it was just good fortune. On the public field, I think everything I aspired to achieve was more or less achieved. But two things, some more patience, some more tolerance, some more acceptance of variety of people. But then as a business manager, as an entrepreneur, I had to take decisions. And the worst time was 2019-20, when we were losing money heavily. We have lost money in the papers. My family has supported me all the time. Or we pledged in the very first issue that we'll give money to, not charity, but to serve cause. So about 400,000 pounds have been given to worthwhile causes in India, some in Africa here, either by Karma Yoga Foundation or two other small charities, unconditionally. And that is because not as a charity, as an interest on the capital I owe it to society. It's a very small incident. In 1981, Bhikkhu Parekh approached me for scholarship in the Faculty of Management in Baroda. And he said, look, I want 4,000 pounds. So we were in a restaurant. I wrote on a paper because he was going to India next day. I said, take it and give it to my brother, he will give you money. So the Dean of the Faculty of Management wrote me and I said, thank you for your generosity. And I said, please, it is a first installment. Because I know money is very important, because I had to sell a big building 2 years ago because I want to release myself from financial difficulty. I'll be very frank. The worst painful decision was in 2020 when I had to put 5 of my most senior staff on furlough. And I knew that perhaps I could never be able to recruit them again. It was not easy. And I can't describe what pain we went through. My son and my family, Pushpa and her elder sister is my family here, Sarojben. But we had to do it, to look after job other 20 people in this country, in India. But then you have to bite the bullet sometimes, unfortunately. So there were some hard decisions, some painful decisions. But I would say one thing, we have not done any corruption, not blackmailing. Or when 10 years ago, we used to get 60,000-70,000 pounds a year from advert, black magic and this and that. And immediately when somebody wrote to me, I stopped it, thanks to my salespeople. So we put our money where our mouth is. But then I must say, I'm very fortunate. The readers, whether Indian, non-Indian, they are so much accommodating, so much help. When Hare Krishna temple decision, and it was the biggest campaign we had. In London, and asked people, they published a book. They called me general. I was the campaign manager. On 14th March 1994, there were over 35,000 people marching from Lincoln Inn Field to House of Parliament. Hindus, but we made sure the front were 5-6, but the speakers were also Muslim also. White, Jewish, anybody. And that was to me the best opportunity. Because it was Hindu unity, but helped by others. And when the decision was at that time, it was very funny. When the pressure came on the British government and Hertzmer Council, and we were building pressure, but no threats. There are people who helped me, were Dr. Singhvi and John Gummer, who was Secretary for Environment, and many more people. But the people of Hare Krishna movement, the Patron Council, we used to work on, so I was mad. I was to more or less devote all my time there. And I think that made me happy. And Gujarati, chalo saru kaam thayun છે. So I think I got a lot more than I deserved, or I expected. you have got still sizable number of subscribers. Much more than any Indic language papers in America, here or Australia. And because I know it, Gujarat, Samachar and Asian Voice. And then my son said that, look, there are some individuals who stood by you. And there is a competition in the field and other people will make mincemeat out of them. So I started thinking, Jnana Yagna, Seva Yagna. I'm giving you some loud thinking. I am aware that nothing in life is permanent. Change is very important. So there may not be future for a Gujarati daily, weekly, or even Asian Voice. It is transformed. It is not the new life. If you look at the new life, it was more or less relations. Asian Voice has a different purpose. There is a purpose in publishing also. Not as a chartered, but I know, I make some notes. I'm very keen to plan the next stage. To me, it was never a business. I cannot write autobiography, but I've got enough things to share. Small things, big things. Because our worst enemies are not racist or white people. Our worst enemies are people within our community. Superstitions, cheating people, promising what they cannot deliver. And whether there are gurus also, I'm opposed to some gurus. I believe in God. But say in London there are some gurus, England there are some gurus, I don't take the right word. If I am accused for rape by a woman, and it's public knowledge in the court and the report, I will publish a story. And I will tell to publish about me also. And remember when I was fined some 50 pounds for speedier driving, I put it in the front page paper. Because there is public knowledge. And the people have tried to bullshit me, which I won't surrender. That way I'm very crazy. If something is right, then money doesn't matter. It's crazy. But allow me to live my way.
He's not just an editor or a narrator. He's an author, a curator, I would say an inspirer of what the community have done.
CB is a legend. He is an icon of the Asian community, and we've made the progress we have because of CB Patel.
Truly an ambassador of all that is best in India.
On the public field, I think everything I aspired to achieve was more or less achieved.